Hi, I'm Anuttama. I don't know whether I'm being audible and visible or not. For the first time with eNewth in this FB Live. I can't see anybody at this point here, so I'm not very sure whether um, I'm being visible. Anyway, let me just start the process. I would thank eNewth initially. Yeah, I can see some people are already there. I can see some known highs and now we can talk about the lows as well. I'll thank eNewth for creating this interactive platform for me to have conversation with you. I would begin with a certain feeling which is commonly being experienced in this time. And gradually, I would also take your queries and concerns as and when they appear on screen. Um, I'm audible and visible. I have been reassured by somebody out here. I can see Srobona. Thank you, Srobona. Ankhi is also there. Okay, perfect. Um, we're often hearing one sentence. We are hearing that from ourselves. We are also hearing this around us. I'm not feeling good. It's a very common experience right now. I'm not feeling good. The moment we are experiencing this, many of us are questioning ourselves very critically that why am I not feeling good? Is it a sign of weakness? Am I being over vulnerable that I'm not feeling good? Because apparently there is always a pressure around us to feel good. As if no matter what happens in your life, you have to be happy, you have to be pleasant, you have to be calm. I do not believe in that. I think when there is a historical crisis going on, when there is such a pandemic situation, nothing is really going all right around us. Why should I feel good? So let us first accept that it's all right not to feel good. It is all right to feel troubled, stressed, worried, anxious. That's natural. That's situation appropriate. That's realistic. Now, once we acknowledge that, once we come to terms with it, only then we can go beyond it. How can we go beyond it? Maybe we can replace why am I not feeling good? Why is it happening? Those questions by bringing such certain other words. What is making me feel so bad? Replace why with what. In the sense, somebody could be worried more about corona, the disease, whereas another person could be worried about the lockdown situation. Somebody could be worried about work related insecurity. Somebody could be worried about relationship related struggles. So from this entire crisis, we are all choosing our exclusive battles, our exclusive problems, and we are responding to it. There are times when we are not even clear what is making us so worried, so vulnerable. I would say first bring clarity about that. That's very important. Unfortunately, we have a certain way to deal with our anxieties. I mean, either we go on and on and on with the problem, we brood over the problem, but we do not think about the solution, or we try to distract ourselves with something or the other. We run away from our anxieties. Now, imagine a situation if you're planning to talk to somebody about something very important, something very crucial, and if that person is constantly telling you, I'll talk to you later, won't you keep going back to that person? Won't you keep trying to draw that person's attention? We usually do that, right? I mean, we can be blocked for that. That's a different matter. But we cannot block our anxieties. We are doing the same thing with our anxieties. It is trying to talk to us, it is trying to tell us something, and we are running away. So our anxieties are running after us. And what exactly is this doing? When we are trying to fall asleep, when we are less guarded, it is trying to wake us up because it wants to hold a conversation with you. When you're trying to concentrate on your work, it is disturbing you untimely. Trust me, these problems like sleeplessness, concentration problems, they are not exactly problems or by themselves from the very beginning. They are actually the consequences of some other problems. Maybe I have an anxiety about salary cut that is leading to some other issues, maybe regarding my other works. I mean, let's say now when I'm trying to concentrate onto some creative activity, I'm not being able to focus onto that because I'm worried about something else. Or whenever I'm trying to fall asleep, I'm being worried because somewhere I'm worried about an unresolved part of a problem. So sleeplessness is the consequence. Later it can be an added problem because if you have sleepless nights, consecutive 3 to 4 days, if you're not sleeping, then that becomes a problem on its own. But initially it was a consequence. So important, it is very important for us to understand what is making me stressed, what is making me worried. Now, from the entire problem, let us also try and see that, okay, how can I solve some part of the problem? For example, let's say we are worried about salary cut. This is a very, very common problem. Many of my friends, colleagues are already experiencing that. In fact, some people are almost about to lose their jobs. They're worried about it. In fact, I remember in one case, a friend of mine was telling me that, I know that there would be a salary cut, but I do not know for how many months this will go on. Now, from this known problem, let us not pick up the most unknown zones. You do not know for how many months this will go on. Even your management does not know, because they also don't know how things will pan out, how their revenue will be affected. So, how can they tell you for how many months there will be salary cut? So, what do we know? We know that at least our expenditure is under our control. During lockdown, we have learned that we can do without a lot of things. We have learned that, the mandatory cafe strolling can be on hold. We have learned that the weekend shopping mall visits, we can do without them. We can keep them on hold for the time being. Let's not feel that it's gone away entirely from your life forever. No, but for the time being, you can do without them. So certain expenditure we can control. If the earning is not under my control, at least this is the area where I can use my empowerment. I can use my coping strategies. So, this is how, from the entire problem, let us first choose certain areas which you can handle, which you can control. But you can only do that. You can only bring certain choices in your life when you know what is troubling you. Unfortunately, we have so many trackers. We are so much used to using trackers to see how many steps we have taken a day, how much calorie you have burnt the whole day. Have you ever thought about your emotional tracker? Trust me, we all have that. It's inbuilt. We don't switch it on. We don't ask ourselves, why am I feeling like this? What is wrong with me? And since we do not stay connected to our inner self, our core worries, they disturb us time and again. We constantly try to go away from unpleasantness. But this is such a situation where unpleasantness is inevitable. You cannot run away all the time. We have to sit face to face and we have to hold a conversation. We have to talk to our anxieties properly so that we can reach for a solution. Okay, I can see some questions are already popping up. Let me take a few from there. I can see there's a question there about anxiety about my productivity. More than, okay, how do I deal with this? All right. Totshamo Mukherjee is writing this. I would say productivity might be affected, Totshamo, also because somewhere our creative energies are being stuck. We are not really our, peaceful self. We are not in the best frame of minds. Now, how you're evaluating the productivity, that's a bigger question. There, do not be so much critical and judgmental. Sometimes we expect non-judgmental behavior from others, but we're extremely judgmental about our own behaviors. Let's change that pattern. Even if I'm writing 4 lines, which I find rubbish, doesn't matter. They would help me to liberate my fears, liberate my inner emotions. Sometimes it's important to create something in order to have a catharsis. It's unimportant whether they're liked, they're going to be liked by somebody or not. Doesn't matter. You don't even have to upload it. It's not for others to see, it's for you to express. So when you are looking at your products, your own work, do not be such a harsh evaluator at this point. Do not think that I used to do things so well. Why is it happening to me like this right now? It's happening this way because the time is different. You also have to consider time as a very crucial variable. Maybe the work which used to take an hour, now it is taking 2 hours because I am distracted. And if you're dealing with distraction, if you're dealing with sleeplessness, if you're dealing with other anxieties, we have to first acknowledge that these are normal at this point. Say, for example, when we are talking about sleeplessness, in fact, a lot of people have already told me about it. I would say don't become a clock watcher when you can't fall asleep at night. We often do that. Oh my God, it's 2 a.m., 3, 4. Don't do that. Rather, if you know that, in any case, I would not be able to fall asleep tonight, it's gone, more or less, try to do something else. Maybe you try and listen to some music. If you can read something without disturbing another person who's sleeping in the same room, you can do that. Maybe without your knowledge, you would doze off. It may so happen. Another issue I would say about sleeplessness, For some people, it's not that they can't fall asleep. They are not being able to sleep at night. So their sleep cycle has got disturbed. It's not about not being rested. But in that case, we can be slightly flexible at this point. I mean, though, I have heard many people are talking about following a routine, following a strict timetable. I have a different thought, I have a different belief about it. I think since all the days are appearing like Sundays right now, we would be slightly disoriented about dates and timing. I mean, quite naturally, because our day to day work schedules have changed. Our life is going through a different, platform. Things are on hold. There are many activities which we cannot do right now. So let us not be that strict about your timetable. Rather, let's decide that, okay, these are the things that I have to finish today. Maybe at night I'm not being able to sleep, so if I get a small time, maybe if I can sleep and I can take some rest during the day, that's fine. Let us not be again overcritical about it. There are many things which even if you want, you would not be able to control, but there are certain things in your day to day schedule which you can control. You can have still your sense of comfort there. Use it, practice it. Once your regular work starts, I'm sure things will change again. For 1 or 2 days, you might find it difficult, but trust me, it will be fine. Your body clock will be readjusted. Don't worry too much about it from now on. Don't make sleeplessness another new problem. If I'm not being able to sleep right now, what can I do to make myself slightly distracted? Or I can even think about my own thoughts. I can tell my thoughts, dear thoughts, come and tell me, what do you want to tell me? Why did you wake me up at the middle of the night? Have a conversation. Don't be afraid to ask yourself the scariest questions. What exactly is there in you? Why do we run away? Because we might find those questions very uncomfortable. It's time that we ask those questions to ourselves, because the more you run away, they would disturb you some way or the other. They are like, untamed children at times. Yeah, I can see this. Somebody is asking me about catharsis. Relationship, family related questions are also coming. Premankur has written about that. Well, I think this is a major problem in our families. We do not have the concept of privacy. It's very unfortunate. But I would say at least we have at our own space, our own home, our own sense of, roof. There are many people who do not even have that. So that way, I would say we can feel slightly grateful, privileged. I'm sure that's not going to take away all your problems, but that is in a way a solace. Secondly, when we have to stay with others inside the, in our home, we are all homebound and we don't have the best of relationships with each other. That's a reality. In most of the household stories talk about that. So I would say we can at least try and avoid certain conversations where we know we would definitely get into a conflict, things would become topsy-turvy, we would get into a frictional conversation. We can just say that I don't want to have any word or any conversation or any discussion about this right now. We can talk about it later. Try and edit that conversation as much as possible. If you repeatedly do that, the other person would be frustrated after a point and would not try to hold that conversation. A principle that I often follow is like, what people will tell me I do not know, but I can definitely change the filter of my audition so that I don't have to hear it. I cannot control what you would do to me, but I can definitely have a control over how will I be affected by that. So maybe we can try and use that and try and be connected to those people who are not staying under the same roof with you, but you feel emotionally, more comfortable in their company. We have often seen that we are all sitting in the same room and we are just, talking to somebody else through our mobile phones or through other virtual medium. It's time that you actually should do it. You should connect with people where you can find your emotional comfort. You don't necessarily may find that from people, who are staying with you under the same roof. Tanzim has asked me, how long should the lockdown in India? Tanzim, I wish I knew that. I don't know that. And with that question, I would also tell you that let us not ponder upon things which we do not know. This is, of course, your question, my question. I'm sure even the policymakers may not even have clear idea about it. Even they're facing this sort of a pandemic situation for the first time. So we also have to grant them that. We do not know. But let us decide that if we have to go through this for the time being, what are the issues which are troubling me about lockdown and what can I do about them? I may not have any control over the dates of lockdown. I may not have any control over how many shops will be open and all. But if I require something, what can I do independently to gratify myself? These are the things that we can control. Okay, I was also seeing another question about catharsis. Very quickly, catharsis is when something is built up, bottled up in you. Through some creative exercise, we can sublimate those emotional turmoil, those inner, struggles. I mean, that's a form of catharsis. Sometimes we can also experience catharsis while watching a beautiful film. Maybe while you identify with the characters and you are also seeing tears rolling and you feel somewhat liberated. You're crying, but you feel liberated, because it is important to liberate your emotions. Catharsis gives us that sort of a feeling. Job insecurity, Ranjish, yes. In fact, I started the session with that. That's a major crisis at this point. No point denying that. I would say that it's a global scenario. I mean, financially, we are going through a major crisis. This much I can say, that for the time being, we can have a control over our expenditure. We all know that these are our fixed expenditure, like our EMIs are our fixed expenditure. I'm just giving you a rough estimate. Your utility bills are your fixed expenditure. But certain luxury items, certain other plannings that we used to do in order to feel good are variable expenditure, are not fixed expenditure. You can have a control over them. We are somewhat being used to being different about our spending habits. I think that might be helpful even in the long run if we really have to worry about our finances. Because when we have financial worry, what is the first feeling that comes to us? How will I survive with this amount of money? How will I survive? What would be the minimal amount important for my survival? Let us have some kind of negotiation with that, so that some money can be saved, which probably we were spending onto certain things thinking those are essential. Now we have realized those were not essential. Okay, can we go back to normal life after lockdown, Shalagna? I think yes. I believe initially we may have problem, but I have huge faith in our adaptability. This is going to be somewhat difficult. We might find it a little difficult to be flexible enough in the initial days, but I think over time we will be, because we haven't brought up with lockdown. We have so many years of experiences where we have not been through lockdown. So just these few months cannot make me different persons altogether. Also, I would say that this lockdown must not be perceived as a punishment. This is something which is happening for our own safety. We know that right now the infection tendency, the contamination tendencies are pretty high. So we are going through a certain protocol for our own safety. Of course, that is something which can make you feel little more resilient towards lockdown. Yeah, I can see that there is a feeling of helplessness, that we would never be able to go back to our regular life. I again would tell you, Shalagna, that perhaps we should not over conclude something. At times when we are looking at those dates which are far away, they might seem pretty dark, they might seem insurmountable, but it might not be true. Maybe even in your life, I mean, earlier, when you have gone through any other trouble, any other problem, while going through the problem, we often feel that it is never going to end, but it had ended. That is exactly why we are sitting together and we are discussing other things. So our problems also change their priorities, and we become busy with something or the other. So I don't think we should be so pessimistic. Okay, I can see some more questions coming. Okay, another question. Can we survive? Can we go back to the normal life? I have already answered that, Ajit. I think you can go back and you can listen to this if you have joined later. Yeah, Shomo was talking about anxiety. Anxiety, as we were discussing at the beginning of the session, that we have to first understand what is making me anxious, and only then we can try and strategize. We can try and form certain coping strategies. For example, somebody is not liking the online classes. A student. I have also heard that from some parents, that my child is not enjoying the online classes. Now, I would say that first we have to stop comparing that it would be like just the physical classes. No, it will be different. I might not even like the entire component of it, but it is not all about liking. Show me one individual in this whole world who's only doing things that she or he likes. It doesn't happen that way. I think we have to somewhere increase our tolerance level. We have to tolerate displeasure. We have to tolerate anxieties. We have to tolerate unpleasantness because the situation itself is not pleasant. If we are constantly trying to deny that, then we are probably inviting a delusional state, which is also not going to stay for too long. Domestic violence, yes, that's a major problem people are experiencing and in the home front. In fact, our aggression is also increasing, which is why the domestic violence has also gone up. I would say that those relationships which are already fragile, where you know that I'm already in an abusive relationship, try not to provoke each other as much as possible. Domestic violence is also increasing because the support systems cannot reach you that fast the way things used to happen before. Say, for example, somebody knows that even if I'm abusing the other person, she cannot go away, she cannot run away, because where would she go? And she is not supposed to run away. She's not supposed to go outside the household premise. So these are also giving us some sort of motivation to behave uninhibitedly with each other. I think we may also set certain norms while fighting. I often say that even when we fight, we may form certain protocols, like no matter what, you would not tell me this, or no matter what, I should not tell you this. Let us decide these things. And also, if the emotional abuse, domestic violence goes to a certain degree where things are really, really murky, things are really problematic, please, I'm telling all the viewers, please take the help of local police station immediately, because at least they are under the essential service category, they can reach you. In fact, even if your people who are at home and who are doing this to you, even if they know that you can actually connect with the legal system and you can be helped in a way, they could also be careful. So let's not imagine that I'm completely helpless, there is no way out. There is no way out is also not an absolute state. There are other methods through which one can reach you even if you cannot come out. Okay, and let us also not take a drastic decision about the relationship right now. This is something that I've been telling people for quite some time, that during this period, usually we are very impatient, usually we are very irritated, so we might not be our best selves with each other. So let us keep our decisions on hold as far as relationships are concerned. I mean, forming new commitments, breaking off, let's keep it on hold. You may speculate, you may take the call later, I mean, you might even think about it, but let's not declare something, so that you may even feel that even if I declare that I'm not going to stay with you, after that, if you have to stay for another 14 days under the same roof with the same person, that will be problematic. So keep it to yourself. For the time being, let's not get into that problematic zone emotionally. Let's not get into that conversation emotionally. Depression and loneliness, I can see questions coming about that. Namrata has talked about it. Loneliness, yes, is definitely a problem. I would say that this is very interesting. In this period, we are realizing this loneliness is also not all about our physical loneliness. In the sense, we might be with a lot of people inside a house, yet we may feel lonely. And there are people who are actually staying alone, and of course, they are feeling lonely. So I think, firstly, if you are staying alone, let us not feel that I'm the only one who's experiencing this. No, even those who have too many members in the same household, even they are feeling lonely because they are not emotionally on the same page. We can try and have emotional conversations with people you like, your friends, your family members. They may stay here and there. Connect with them virtually, stay connected as much as possible. And also, I would tell you that those people who are into some essential services, who can drive down in case of any emergency, stay in touch with them. I mean, at least in case of any kind of requirements or emergency, so that you don't feel completely helpless, so that you don't feel that nobody would be able to reach me. At least you would be able to combat that fear if you are in touch with them. Also, I would say that as far as loneliness is concerned, we can also try and engage into some self-fulfilling activities, but I have seen people complaining about their concentration. So there I would say, if you can't finish a novel, don't even target that, because sometimes, the moment you take a goal which you cannot complete, that becomes the reason for another frustration. Do something which is attainable. Read a short story, listen to an audio book, watch a series, something which does not demand so much active attention. For the time being, you can do that. You don't have to crib about the fact that, why have I lost that habit? We'll deal with it later. For the time being, a lot of other problems are already there on your plate. let us not add on to another problem by being over self-critical. The sameness the day makes it harder. The same things Sandeep has written. uh, Anxiety and feeling need to spend time. I'm getting more. I think creativity is definitely a solution, but again, we all are very different in our creative expressions. And sometimes we also feel that there is a pressure of performing well when we are being creative. Perhaps this pressure comes from social media, and I would say that let us not be so much focused on being appreciated or uploading your creation. It is far more important to create than sharing that creation. It doesn't matter who likes yours and who doesn't, because even one may not like a very famous singer's songs. That does not make her or him any less. So it's a relative term. Let's not focus too much on the evaluation or the appreciation. Create because you want to do something constructive, and if that makes you feel a little distracted, a little better, why not? Can coronavirus transmitted to air? To air, not yet. I'm not sure. That I'm not the specialist, I'm not the expert, but so far I know, Ajit, it's not yet confirmed. It's not yet confirmed. It's still said that it is transmitted through the droplets, and sometimes it can be it can travel, particularly when the aerosol is being used for medical purposes, but air to air transmission hasn't been confirmed yet. This is how, as much as I know, but again, I'm not the right person to get into it. Okay, so there is a relationship problem that's been mentioned here. Okay, fighting happening out of trust issues, I can see that. All right. Okay, I have usually handled the trust issues. I think we can do something about it, Rubina. Firstly, when you cannot trust your partner, ask yourself that, am I confident enough about myself? Let's say, if I know that no matter whom you meet, finally you have to come back here, you will have lesser trust issues. It's not only about your case. This is a general thing I'm talking about. Usually trust issues could be connected to my lack of self-confidence. Maybe I am also not convinced that my partner should stay with me. Maybe I think that she deserves better or he deserves better. And that is exactly why I have trust issues. So before you accuse your partner, look into yourself. What is creating this trust issue? And secondly, in a relationship, we do not want to become a Sherlock Holmes, right? We want to relax. We want to enjoy the relationship. And if I'm constantly distrusting, then I might as well ask myself, why am I being with this person? So finally, we would like to be happy in a relationship. We would like to be relaxed in a relationship. I would tell you that since you already have problems much before lockdown, you have experienced this. During lockdown, let us not get into too much of a conflictual conversation around the trust issues and all of that. After the whole lockdown thing is over, maybe you both can go for some sort of a couple therapy and you can address the issue. Also, if you think that it is irreparable, maybe you both can decide something about the relationship. I believe it is always better to have a pleasant, some kind of, graceful goodbyes than being in a relationship which is troubling both of you constantly. I want to study, I want to focus, but I'm not being able to focus. Jayesh, maybe what you can try and do is, whenever you're trying to study, create short, crisp study targets. Let's say you decide that, okay, today I would finish these 3 things no matter what comes my way. Do not try to form a timetable, rather form a task table. That, okay, at least these things I'm going to finish. When, for how long, that is not important. I have to finish these things. Whenever you're trying to read something new, whenever you're trying to comprehend something new after the first reading, try to write them down in a piece of paper and see whether you can remember what you have studied or not. If you see that, no, I can't remember, you go back to that study material, once again give it another reading, then try and write. So this way, after each reading, how much your brain has actually saved, you would be able to understand. Actually, we have this concentration problem because, again, our system is overloaded with too many unresolved questions, too many unresolved anxieties. It's like our laptop where too many windows are open and the system is running slow and it's hanging. That's exactly how our brain is functioning right now. Too many unresolved anxiety windows are open, which is precisely why we are not being able to focus onto something. And that's exactly why I said it is important for us to sit in front of your anxieties and ask, what is it? What do you want to tell me? so that you can have some coping strategy towards them, so that you can end that window and you can move on. Some anxieties you will not be able to resolve, and tell yourself that if it is not going to be resolved by me right now, then I'm not going to think about it because it is not under my control. But if there is one component about that anxiety which is somewhat, solvable, then address it. And then let's take the next step. This way, at least for the time being, you can try and be slightly, less burdened. Um, Huge anxiety implementing policies. Biplav Burman has written about it. Yes, it's quite an ethical dilemma, I must say. I think, Biplab, in such cases, we know, this is the typical HR teaching. If we have to tell people, we have to first make them understand that it is not your decision, it's the higher management decision. It's an organizational decision. We are all on the same boat. And please also explain why such decisions are being taken, why the need to implement these decisions are there. Talk about the greater picture, talk about the larger picture, and then try and convince people. And please do not say that I have decided. Maybe you are representing the organization, but it is not something that you have decided. That should be clearly told, because the person who's listening to you may not find your superiors or may not find your authorities, may find you. So you might become the representative of that decision. So you have to be very careful while communicating that, while conveying that, so that you don't become the center of aggression. Yes, emotional sustenance through dating apps. Yes, I agree. Virtual relationships. I would say, Premankur, for the time being, we can have some good time. But again, as far as serious commitments are concerned, we can keep them on hold because we never know. Maybe at this time when we are extremely troubled, I'll just give you an example. Maybe I might meet somebody virtually who was great for me to share my anxieties with. But once these anxieties are over, once my life is back in my normal course, I might not find that person, that fulfilling. So this person might be helpful for this moment's need, which is precisely why we need to see the same person when the crisis is over. Am I still going to find this person fulfilling? Am I still going to take this relationship seriously? Am I still feeling good about this person? We have to form that holistic perspective, which we cannot presume at this point, because we are overwhelmed by only one factor, corona or lockdown and stuff like that. So I would say enjoy the breeze, but let's not, go with the flow, but let's not take a huge decision. Let's not make conclusion about the relationship right now. How do we deal with the sense of hopelessness that is COVID-19 has brought? Yeah, I think that's a very critical question. Moni Monjuri, oh, lovely name, Moni Monjuri. Yes, that's a very important question. I think I can tell you this much, that many patients are also recovering. There are people who have stayed with the COVID victims, or the COVID sufferers, but have not been infected. For example, we all know, this was there in the media, so there is no point me not talking about it. The first detected person in Calcutta, in Kolkata, who had COVID-19, who was suspected, and then he was found to have COVID positive. His own mother, the driver, they were not COVID positive. So we can say this much, that even staying under the same roof, one was not really infected by the other person. So when we are feeling extremely hopeless, extremely helpless, we can also think about certain realities. For example, when you see how many people have died, also see in the same news they are talking about recoveries. So let us form a holistic picture. I'm not diluting the threat. I'm not saying that it's not a scary situation. It is a scary situation. But again, it is not all that dark. Maybe this is how we can deal with it. Maybe this is how we can tell ourselves that we would be cautious, we would take our own precautions, but let us not think that this is the end of the world. Because we often think this way. We often ask ourselves that, oh my God, am I going to die? The answer is, of course you are going to die. I am going to die. Everybody is going to die. The moment we are, in this world, immediately after our birth, if there is one thing certain, is our death. We all know that we would die, but we cannot guarantee that we would all die out of corona. Nobody can say that.
So, when we are extremely anxious, let us also understand the gravity of our anxieties. No matter how ridiculous they sound, talk to your anxieties, be gentle towards them. It might appear nonsensical, but you need to hear them because the situation is also pretty weird. Yes, we are feeling that almost it's the end of the mankind. Perhaps no. Perhaps it's a critical situation, but all of us are not going to be, extinct just because Corona has arrived. I can see Shongita, my sister is a survivor of depression. Uh, Antidepressant, yes, she would take the resort and antidepressant again. Suggestions. Okay. Firstly, I would say that in my own experience, while doing some sessions online, I've seen people who are suffering from depression. It's an extremely interesting experience for me. Some of them had said that, I used to think that I'm the only unhappy person. Everybody is happy around me. For the first time during this Corona attack, I'm in a way relieved seeing everybody is unhappy. So that way, even those who are suffering from depression, they might find a silver line because they used to isolate themselves with their depressive thoughts. Now we are all more or less on the same boat. So I would tell you, Shongita, you can tell your sister that it's a difficult situation. During depression, our negative thoughts increase. We get into the negative loop. Things become very dark. We cannot see anything positive. People who are not diagnosed with depression right now, even they're thinking in that line. Of course, the antidepressants, if there is any chronic medicine that she has to take, she must get in touch with her psychiatrist or her mental health professional. Some of them are available online. So that is one area. Two is she can do certain things which are not directly connected to the newly found stressful part. I mean, for example, if she thinks that Corona has added on to her depression, things were already dark, this is an add on. So she can tell herself that this is something, this add on is not only happening to me, this is happening to all of us. So maybe let us see, all of us, we can do something in order to feel little better about this overwhelming anxiety, about the apprehensions. In any case, I would say you can ask your sister not to think too much about the future, because during depression, it is usually a tendency to look at the future only through the dark lens. You cannot have a positive picture of your future. And right now, with this Corona thing, we all have that kind of an, apprehensive eye. So it is better to live for the day. Okay, today's date, 26th of April, do I have any problem? This is rather the approach that we all may take. How long the minds, this mindset lockdown, well, honestly speaking, depends. I mean, we don't know till what time this lockdown will be on. Then again, I would tell you that when you are troubled by the lockdown, you can ask yourself, what is exactly troubling me about the lockdown? What are my worries? What are my discomforts? You can take them onto you can take them one after the other, and then you can try and address them, because some part of it could be addressed by you. Maybe some part of it might not be addressed by you, whether it's lockdown or not. In your life, you cannot address all the problems at one go. You have never done that. We have never done that. We have always prioritized some problem over the other. So I don't think this is a situation where we should expect from ourselves that all the problems will be solved. No. From lockdown, select the problems which are actually creating more trouble to you, and then try and see what can you do about them. Okay, let me just check more questions were there. Um, okay, another thing I thought of. Okay, I can see Nithi had written about homesickness. As I was saying, Nithi, maybe after the lockdown is over, we would take some time, but we can go back to our regular schedule. As far as homesickness is concerned, I think for the first time we are also enjoying our own space, our own sense of space. Not all of us, some people may enjoy that. So perhaps once we are outside the home premise, once we would go out for work or for studies or for our other commitments, we will have the longing to come back. I think that is also a lovely feeling which we are learning now. Maybe those of us who rediscovered the sense of comfort at home, they would have something else to look forward to. So I would rather take that as a pleasant feeling, that let us not call it homesickness, rather let us call it home longing. You can rather come back there because you know that I feel great. I feel great once I'm back. Um, Memories come back, Nivedita. You have talked about them. It's causing more anxiety because the scenario is also terrifying. Well, I would say memories have their own way to follow us. And again, you cannot run away from your memories, to be very honest. As far as memories are concerned, I would say that let us also not expect that I would not remember, I should forget. Sometimes, we have some unrealistic expectations from us, and that actually creates more trouble. Like we expect that once relationship has gone away from our life, or once we had a bad breakup, we would not remember that person. How is it possible? No matter how difficult that relationship was, you will remember that person. You will remember some moments. Let it come, let it go, bow down to your memories. Again, it's not always possible to run away from your unpleasant thoughts. But at the same time, tell yourself that if these past memories are coming back to me, some part of it is also giving me the strength to understand that I have survived so much. Maybe that would be there with you, even when you're dealing with some new troubles. That I have gone through so much. I've gone through so many, lows, so many ups and downs, and I'm still surviving. Perhaps from your memories you can take that lesson. And sometimes, if while thinking about your lost ones, if you feel sad, if you're crying, if you're feeling low, allow yourself to feel low. It is not important to feel happy all the time. I at least don't believe in that principle. I believe it is important to also stimulate your tear glands at times. Even they need your attention. Even they are there as part of your emotional field. Fear of losing the loved ones, Boishakhi. um, Honestly speaking, we have this fear. That's very natural, particularly those who stay with elderly people. They are particularly mentioning that. Also, I have been hearing this from people whose spouses or partners, friends are working in the essential services, have to go out. Even they're very worried that what if these people get infected. Now, I would say that there is apparently, it might sound very existential, but apparently there is no guarantee of life. We do not know how we would die, how others would die. We really don't know. Nobody has any idea about it. We do not want to talk about death because it's extremely discomforting. We do not want to think about it because, of course, it disturbs us from the core. But the reality is, we don't know. We have no control over another person's existence. We do not have any control over our own existence with or without corona. So something which is in any case not under our control. I mean, a person may survive corona, may die out of something else. We may survive some more threats, and yet we may, get troubled by some other ailments. All these things are possible. Since it's completely uncertain, since it's not known to any one of us, let us enjoy their presence at this point. Right now, you and your loved ones are together. That's important. The rest of the story, we don't know. So, the more you think about it, you would feel helpless, hopeless, you would feel very pessimistic. So, rather, let's not brood too much over it. How to engage the child in this situation? Sometimes you can try and be more creatively engaging with your child. Say, for example, we can talk to them about corona and these things in a very different way, maybe through a story or maybe through painting. We can ask them to draw something, and do not be too harsh with them as far as their studies are concerned, because that is also creating lots of frictions at home. In fact, many a times we are losing our temper, we are becoming abusive towards our children. We have to be very careful, because we are getting such calls also in the child helplines these days, where children are being extremely, I mean, they're being badly treated, they're being emotionally they're feeling emotionally rejected, criticized. We have to be a little patient with them, particularly when you are impatient, when you know that you are not in your best set of mind. Do not try and engage yourself with your children in a certain activity where you know that they will put you off. Sometimes children have their own habits to test your limits. They might try and see how much can you take. They might actually try to push you to that zone. You have to play it really well. You have to tell your child that you do what you have to do. I'm not going to respond to it right now. The more you will be angry, the more you will give your negative attention. That might not solve the situation. Rather, your child might become counter aggressive. She may also lose her temper. There could be, harsh arguments at home, which would actually jeopardize the peace as a whole. So I would say that let us not get into those dialogues. Sometimes we have, when we can at least, keep them as they are. Sometimes we don't even have to worry about how they would resume their schools, how they would finish their academic works. Honestly speaking, the regular academic works, that would be jeopardized to an extent right now. But maybe once the whole situation is better, we can get hold of the situation. We can start once again. The way we are also thinking about our own work scenario is the same story with our children. Also, another thing I would tell you, as elders, as adults, we are also complaining about concentration. So how do we expect our children will be extremely focused and they will not have any problem? Maybe we have more information. Maybe we know that, okay, this is what corona is all about, that's lockdown, yet we cannot deal with our anxieties. Our children do not even have the comprehension. They are just bombarded with their own unresolved queries. So please understand, it is natural for them not to feel that focused or not to feel good about their studies. So in case they come to you with any question, do not, disregard the question. Rather have a conversation with them. Ask them, okay, so what is it? What do you want to know? And try and answer as much as possible, because that will also, strengthen the rapport between the two of you. Lack of attention in studies, maybe that is what I was discussing, that sometimes it will happen these days. We would not be able to study for too long. Let us not even keep such targets, keep crisp targets. And also, maybe while studying, you can read and write. If you see that I'm not being able to remember, give it another reading. In fact, people are also complaining about forgetting things, that I thought I would do this tomorrow, but I just forgot. Maybe you can keep it written somewhere, that tomorrow's to-do list, something like that. And when you're making your to-do list, ensure that you are not only going to create just the responsibility related task list. Do certain things which you need to do and do certain things which you love to do. Try and create a balance between these two. I mean, even if we all survive for, I don't know how many years, how many months, whatever, we should not spoil every moment by thinking that one day we may die. One day, in any case, we will die, with or without corona. That's been discussed already. So right now, let's say 7:17 p.m., we are alive, we are holding a FB live. And if you ask yourself, it's a very interesting mental exercise you can do. Whenever you're feeling extremely upset, low, anxious, you can look at your watch, you can see the time. For example, 26th April, 7:18 p.m. Do I have any problem? You would see mostly the answer is no. Because if you were into a problem, then you wouldn't have been in a state of mind to ask yourself that question. You would have struggled yourself with that problem. Or if this is about a past situation that has already happened, this is not a part of your 7:18 p.m. So at 7:18 p.m., why do you have a long face? What is happening in your life? As far as uncertainties are concerned, that's a part of life. Life generally is uncertain. Future is uncertain. We can't see the future. That's a reality that we always knew. Right now, we at least have one part about this future, about this uncertainty, and that is related to lockdown and corona. So in this whole uncertain situation, we have two components which are known rather, which is corona and lockdown. Apart from that, rest of the things have always been uncertain. Even when you used to make plans, that, okay, in December I would do this. Were you sure that you would be able to do it? Never. It was your tentative planning. Right now, most of our plannings are going through, too many changes, which is why we are so troubled by it. But it was always like that. We were never sure that just because I have planned, it will happen exactly the way I want it. We can't be so sure about it. Thank you so much, Sonia. Uncertainty, yes, absolutely, Tomali. Uncertainty is causing a lot of anxiety. There is no doubt about it. And exactly, we are hitting the same nail. And I was talking about this uncertainty factor. So I think we have to come to terms with the fact that life is uncertain. Future is uncertain. Only few moments that are there right now in front of me are controlled by me. If I want to be happy, let me focus on those areas for the time being. Let me do something about it. Let me do only that much. This is all that you can do. Another thing I would say that, maybe once we go beyond this lockdown and this whole corona thing, we would be also having certain realizations about ourselves. For example, realizations about people who mattered to us. realizations about our home longing, as Nithi was talking about homesickness, and I said that maybe we also feel more attached to a certain space. Realizations that physical distance matters, because now when we are forced to interact only through the virtual medium, we are not happy. We are physical proximity deprived. So when we will meet each other again, maybe sitting in front of each other, we must not get engaged with somebody else virtually, because we have realized how much it costs. We have realized that only virtual interaction is not enough. We are learning that we need a balance. So I think these realizations can stay with us, can make us a more, I would say, evolved person. So sometimes crisis also helps us to evolve in a certain way. I seeing another question. I think I missed out. Somebody had written about some kind of guilt. I'm not wrong, but I've missed has gone there. I can't find the question. Anyway, yeah, so the sense of guilt, since I kind of glanced through that, but I'm sorry, I couldn't read the question, but it's somewhere now. If the person is still with me, you can put your question once again, please. Generally, there can be a sense of guilt because people around us in our own country, elsewhere, we can see that they are not happy, they are dying, they are affected. We can see the migrant laborers are lost on roads. There are people under poverty line, and there are some poor people who can't even get their day-to-day essentials. And we are actually in a much more privileged position, so we may feel guilty about that. And if you're feeling guilty, I would say that is in a way better. Maybe again, that is another realization which would make you a more evolved person. So once all these things are over, if we keep that guilt with us, that would make us far more grateful about our life and things that are already there in our lives. We would be thankful to life. Two, we may be more responsible towards others. We might actually be more helpful towards each other. We might be more sensitive. We might be more somewhat more tolerant towards each other. I think those are also the learnings that we kind of gather through these crisis periods. Somebody has written that she's got the answer, Tamali. Yeah, okay. One more thing, I'm almost at the end of today's session. I would end with one common fear which people have raised even before the live. I mean, personally, some people have messaged me, so I would like to address that briefly. Fear of being infected. In fact, this is a very, very common fear that's there with many of us. In fact, in case I sneeze, I may feel that if I have corona, what will happen? Or in case somebody feeling slightly feverish, one may feel that maybe I have already been infected. So I would say that the moment you have such fears, let us not conclude something on your own. If you have any physician, if you have any family doctor, talk to that person. This is a time where it is important to get medical advice at the very initial phase. In fact, if things go beyond a certain point, then treating the ailment is becoming an issue. And we are kind of seeing that. It may be corona, it may not be corona. We don't know. Since we do not know, let us not run away from this whole symptom. Let us not suppress the symptom. Let us not stay with the anxiety, feel terrible, yet I'm not going to talk to anybody. Let us not take that measure, because that is not going to help you. That is not going to help you health-wise. That is not going to help you emotionally also. Because even if you're trying to distract yourself by doing something else, you would constantly brood over the matter, what if I have COVID-19? Rather talk to a health physician. Rather get some advice. If you need to go through the test, and we'll see from there. One is also recovering after the tests are done. People are also coming back home. We have also seen such reports. So have faith in that. Rather, let us not be over-conclusive about our health symptoms. Thank you so much, Nivedita. That's also quite assuring. I am almost at the end of today's live. I would like to thank all of you, and I would once again thank eNew because this platform was created by them. So hopefully we would be meeting again under a better sky. Thank you so much.